So let me wrap up with 3 recommendations. The first is don't forget about the enumerator as a weak link in privacy. We as researchers do a lot of really good things to make sure we're keeping data secure, to avoid collecting identifying information, things of that nature. But often we don't account for the fact that there's a human being standing there in the room with the respondent, asking the questions and hearing their answers. So we should think a little bit more about how to close this weak link. Second recommendation from the results primarily is there's minimal downside to self-enumeration of sensitive questions compared to direct or verbal response, right? We saw higher response rates when we let people record their own answer, and the data was at least as accurate, right? We don't really know the underlying truth of people's willingness to report insurgents, but we know that the data we collected on the sensitive question was no worse when we used the self-enumeration than if people had reported verbally. So that combined with a higher response rate means there's really no downside. And then finally, we should employ these complicated techniques with caution. And this one is a little bit self-critical because I've just given you 2 examples from my own research where I've used these. But generally, I would say we shouldn't just never use them again, but we should be very, very careful with how we use them and make sure we're appropriately skeptical of the results. So I think we should use the grandma test. If you can explain the survey technique that you are using to your grandma, meaning someone who is smart but does not have a technical background, then it's probably okay to use, right? If you can, my grandma's 96, she's sharp as a tack, but she does not have training in statistics. If I can explain a survey question to her and she gets it, I'm pretty sure my enumerators can explain it as well. But if her response, as it was on one of these questions, is, oh, I see you're trying to trick them into giving you information that they don't want to give. Well, that's not what I'm trying to do. But if that's her reaction, that's going to be some of the respondents' reactions as well. Okay. So keep the grandma test in mind. Make sure you're doing things as simply and as straightforward as possible.